look up your customer database, look up your prospect database, people who have ever shown interest, right? Their age, location, language, spending power, spending patterns, their interest, their stage of life. Talk to as many as you can. And you will unearth a lot of information about the kind of customers who are coming for your brand. The second thing that we do is use social media. This is a little video that I have on how you can use social media to get some insights about your audience. Now, I'm guessing that many of you have a Facebook business page, right? So if you have a business page, all you have to do is you can first get to your business page. I'll walk you through this video, right? You first get onto your business page. I've just picked one of the pages we handle. And on top, you will see this thing called Insights. So if you click on Insights, this is going to load all the insights about your page, right? And then you go to People. On the left column, you see People. So go to People, and it gives you all the demographics about your fans, your followers, the people reached by your page, and the people who've engaged with your page. So this is, again, very useful information to know the kind of age group that is engaging with your brand, the gender split, the locations they come from. And if you go, there is a different setting where you will also see the kind of interest they have. So again, this is a very useful resource to go and find information about your audience. Any questions on this? Any doubts as to how to get here? Okay, I'm assuming it's good.
The insights. Insights, where do you, it's just
so you go to your business page,
okay,
and you will have insights on top. Okay. And a third way to do is to research your competition. See their social media pages. See what kind of people are going and liking their posts. Look up in Google for competitor keywords. You can see what kind of keywords people are searching for related to your brand on Google. I have some free resources on this particular topic at the end of the presentation. And these are, again, things you can use to study your audience. And finally, a fourth one is to study your own website analytics, right? It's very exciting, interesting how you can see information in your website about your visitors. So this is the Google Analytics page. And in Analytics page, this is the home page of the Analytics, the moment you log on to Google Analytics. And you have something called Audience on the left. So if you go into Audience, you will see, first of all, from which ads audience have come to your page. That's a sense of which ads were helpful. You can see a lot of information about your audience, the kind of age people were who came to your site, the gender. This is loading. Yeah, you see the gender, what was the primary gender that was interested in your website. You also see very interesting things like their interest. They're interested in food and dining or media entertainment. What is their lifestyle? So that was an important question I had raised, that you need to understand their lifestyle. So you can see what are their lifestyle interests, what are their professional interests, what kind of geographies they're coming from, what is the technology they use? Are they on Android phones? Are they on iOS? Do they normally log in on their mobile or desktop? So there is a goldmine of information you can get by just studying Google Analytics. And this is a free service. So you can install Google Analytics on your website and you have access to all of this. Now we'll get to how we are going to use this information for digital. So now we know how to define our audience and describe our audience, right? Now let me show you how you can now find this audience on Facebook, because that is really the point of this workshop. So Facebook has a very sophisticated ads manager. It offers you many different types of ads. You can create very clear audience segments. You can create an audience segment based on these interests that you would have uncovered. You can create a segment based on who visited your website, who has been interested in things which are similar to this. There are so many different ways. You can create an audience out of people, out of your customer email list. So there are just, I could take a 1-hour session on Facebook audience, but there are many, many ways in which you can create this audience on Facebook. I'm going to show you the simplest one, which is based on the buyer persona that you've just learned to create. Okay. So this is something called, this is a Facebook Ads Manager. You will have to set up an ad account to have access to this ads manager. It's all free. There is no payment involved in any of this. And then you can go into audience, right? So when you go into audience, you go into creating an audience. and it's a saved audience that you choose because you're going to create a new audience and save it. So, so here travels. So let's say we're creating an audience of family travelers, and so so you will just see that there is currently about 320. If you see the size of the audience right now on the right of the screen, it would say about 320 million. Now that is just too huge. If you're going to target an audience of that size, you're going to have to spend a lot of money. It probably is not going to be effective. So we need to look at ways of trimming this audience down based on the interest. And that's exactly the purpose here, right? So I now pick the location. So I'm picking Chennai and I'm picking a Bangalore. Right? You're going to see the audience size decreasing as you do this, right? And then let's pick an age, because since we're picking family travelers, let's pick an age group, which is a sort of descriptive of a family traveler. I'm saying 30 to 55 years of age. They speak English. And now is where you get into the detailed targeting. Now, in this detailed targeting, you will see on my right, there are multiple ways in which you can create this targeting. You have a base interest, which is basically behaviors, life stages, their possible career-related interests, personal interests. Then you can have subject matter interest, like someone who's interested in traveling may probably be reading Lonely Planet. They may be reading a lot of National Geographic. They also probably, they shop a lot online. They're frequent travelers. So this is where you have to really get creative and think, okay, what are the kind of interests that my audience is possibly going to be interested in, right? And what are, there are trending topics. So for instance, whenever we run an ad campaign in the month of March or April, if it is targeted at college students, we will invariably have IPL as an interest, IPL and Chennai Super Kings, because at that point, it is very contextual. Normally, it happens at that time. So there are, and Facebook gives you suggestions. So the moment you put in a few interests, then Facebook throws a lot of suggestions for you. So from here, you can really pick your audience, and the size will keep coming down as you choose more of these behaviors, interests to target. It gives you very interesting things like I want to exclude certain kinds of people because they're not relevant to your brand. So there are many tools that Facebook Ads Manager gives you to trim your audience down. Typically, we look at a size of anything between 1.5 to 3 million is the size of the audience we look for. Anything larger than that ends up being a bit too not specific enough, right? I hope it's clear at this point, and I've not confused you with this Facebook Ads Manager. So this is your primary tool when it comes to advertising on social media. I'm going to take a break here and ask how many of you have used Facebook Ads Manager?
I have used Aarti, Vani here I've used, but actually only when you say such things, we're able to actually relate to what we have been using and what we have not checked actually.
Okay.
Yes, I have also used it.
I've also used it, yeah.
So it's so they keep expanding the interest. In fact, if your competitor is large enough, you can even put the competitor's name as an interest, right? And you will have everyone who's interested in the competitor. So it's really fun to create an audience. You can test it in many ways. If the audience is too large, you can cut it down by geographies and have ads for different geographies. Another hack that we do is there are more men on Facebook than women. So if we want to get a common audience and we want to get a women audience, we also try to create an ad specifically for women. So we try all these different things to create this audience on Facebook. Yeah. Yeah. So what have we sort of covered so far? We've covered audience, how to understand their interests, and we've touched a little bit upon preferred channels in the sense that what are the channels they use to research. Now we've now covered 2 steps of zero budget marketing. Now what's the third? The third one is to really get their attention. So there is a saying which is common in the digital world, that in the digital world, the real constraint is not space, because you have infinite space available. The real constraint is attention. If you compare it to the traditional world, getting an ad space in a paper or a print publication is so expensive. So space is really the constraint. But in digital, you have the entire timeline and newsfeed of the audience, available. the space is infinite, but attention is very limited because they just have to, swipe left or scroll up to go past it. So how do you make them pause and get their attention? So this is the third step once you figure out your audience. Right. So now there's a quick quiz. You'll get a quiz that will come up on your screen, and I'd like you all to just put in your answers there, and this is going to be the quiz. What kind of brands do you enjoy following? Priya, Rinku?
Priya, are you sharing it?
Yeah, just give me a second. I'm going to put that. Is it coming up on the screen?
No.
No.
Okay.
Maybe I have to stop share for it to come up.
It's still your screen, right?
This is
Priya's? Yeah, no,
that's
this is
Priya's
yours.
screen.
Okay. You're getting the question now.
No, we're getting your email on Gmail.
This is the poll.
Is it
No,
coming on the screen?
the screen is not there. Yeah, open Zoom.
Okay, I'm just going to add the poll right now.
So we're all users of social media, right? And I think I would safely say that each and every one of us has at some point fallen prey to some ad on social media and followed it to the credit card transaction. So it's interesting for us to think about what is the kind of brands that we've enjoyed following, what is the kind of ads that we've fallen prey to, right? So that's really the question that we have right here, and you'll have a few options coming up.
You can see my screen now, is it?
No.
No, we just see a Zoom background.
We can do it verbally. Don't worry.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah. Mala,
So what
just
kind?
sorry. Priya, just come back to the main thing.
Yes, I've done it now. It should come.
Okay. Can you share the poll?
Yeah, you need to share.
Yeah, I've shared it.
No, you're still opening Zoom on this screen.
Not-
You're on your machine screen. It's not the Zoom screen.
Oh, no, this is not my screen.
Aarti, this is your screen then.
This is my screen.
So Priya, you can stop sharing screen.
Yeah.
But no, I think, shall we just move on?
Yeah,
Rinku,
I think so.
fine?
Yeah,
Yeah?
I think so.
Okay.
Sorry about this, ladies.
Sorry. Okay, so let me just go back to press. So the answer I would have liked to derive from the poll is this. So the poll was basically asking you all whether you'd like to, what kind of brands you like following. Do you like something that shows you interesting things you can buy, that shares useful information about something that, a topic or a product or a service that is of relevance to you, or is it something that just posts inspiring photographs, or is it all of the above? I have run that poll with a few people, and often the answer is all of the above. And the reason for that is pretty simple, right? It's really about sharing the right amount of the right content at the right place at the right time. No,
See a mail, yeah.
sorry,
We were only able to see a mailbox, so
my mailbox.
No, you carry on. Now we can see.
Now we can see. Now it's okay. Don't worry,
Okay.
Priya, we're okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, carry on.
So there is really no content that is wrong. There is usually a content overload of one type of content and not enough spread across. So the magic of content marketing is the right content, right place, right time, and the right quantity of it, right? So how do you plan this content that is relevant to your audience? So we look at content in 4 buckets. There is content which educates, content which entertains or engages, content which inspires, and content which convinces. Right. So some of it falls on the rational and so the, sort of the axis goes from rational to emotional, and the x-axis goes from awareness to purchase. So awareness to purchase is the marketing journey of the consumer, and rational to emotional is the emotional journey of the consumer. So if we look at this 2x2 that you can see, 2x2 matrix that you can see on this side, we'll take a couple of examples. So often when you see customer stories or personal stories or impact stories, they are very inspiring, but they also end up moving you towards a purchase, right? And if you see some things like lookbooks, style books, benefits and uses of a product, previews of a product, or something behind the scenes. So these educate you about the product, allow you to sort of engage with the product.
S20 phone आवे 1 लाख में phone ले heart attack.
Someone
Aarti, unmute yourself. Just unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you
Okay.
can carry on. Yeah.
So you see, you have these different types of content, right? Content which does one of these 4 functions and engages with the customer either from a awareness or purchase or rational or emotional. And all of these types of content is very important. So it's important that you plan a monthly content calendar where you tick off different things, different boxes of content for you, which again will tie back to your marketing goals. So if you see the goals here, you have an awareness goal and you have a purchase goal, which is the same as awareness and lead generation. So plan your content based on what you want to get out of that month's marketing effort, right? Do not make a 1-year digital marketing calendar. Things change in the digital media every week. Plan a monthly content calendar, which does justice to all of these types of content, right? And the next thing you have to do is plan which of the channels you want to reach your audience in, right? There are so many channels out there. Of course, you have Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, Google. There are blogs, emailers, websites. There are so many online channels that you can reach your customer on. And each channel plays into a different stage of the customer journey. A typical customer starts with an awareness when they get to know about your brand. Then they move on to an interest stage when they're considering whether they want to buy your brand or not. They evaluate alternatives, they check reviews, and that's when you sort of stay in touch with them and keep reminding them about how cool you are. And then they buy you. And then once they convert and purchase, now it's all about retention. And then they become your advocates in social media. So this is usually the typical journey of the customer, and you need to decide where do you reach them and how do you decide where to reach them. So this is a little matrix that I put together, which we use. It is very closely mapped to the goals. So back to the goals, it's awareness, interest, or conversion, right? And if you see what are the channels typically used to generate awareness, the free channels are Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Very easily you can keep it all free and generate quite a lot of awareness on these. The paid channels to create awareness are YouTube advertising, where these ads will play while you're watching a video. You can again do a lot of targeting on YouTube. Google ads, that little A symbol you see is Google ads, where you can you have these things called pay-per-click advertising. When someone is searching for you, you can make sure you come up on top of the results. So that is again an awareness channel. And then you have the Facebook Ads Manager. We saw a bit of it. Right? So these are the channels to create awareness, to build interest. When you want them to consider your product and really think about, okay, do I want to buy this or not? Let me see how good they are. Now the typical channels used for this are today you have Instagram Live, you have Instagram Stories, Facebook Messenger, Twitter, LinkedIn, webinars, Facebook events. You also have some paid channels are your emailers. So these are all the channels that you can typically use to engage with your customer and build that interest with them, build that relationship so that they convert to sales for you. And again, you have a lot of channels, online channels you can use for sales, which is Facebook again, Instagram, WhatsApp, your website, which is your primary point of conversion. And again, you can use a paid option, which is the Ads Manager. So you have, these are just the basic digital marketing platforms that are available, which you can very easily get onto based on what your marketing goal is, right? So what are some content marketing best practices? How do you get the attention of your audience? Again, I have some free resources on this topic right at the end. So here I've taken a few examples that I thought would be relevant to members of Flow, and you know, and try to make it as simple as possible. So let's say you're a personal brand. So what is a personal brand? Photographers, stylists, curators, event planners, coaches, you know, different types of coaches, right? Where you are the person people are coming for. They're going to buy because you are selling it. So you know, the two people listed here, Amar Ramesh and Alicia D'Souza, they have both not spent a single penny, and look at their follower counts there. And how did they manage to do this? By showcasing expertise and knowledge. They share a lot of content. They are very, very, they share useful content, interesting content. And what they've ended up doing is they've ended up sort of building a community around them that trusts them. And they will now, and this community will now buy whatever you sell or recommend because they trust you, right? They know they're assured of good quality, of an authentic service or a product if they come to you. And so you are the brand here. So I've put in the blue box a few kinds of services or products that could fit into this, you know, category, which I have called as a personal brand. Let's say you sell a B2C product, which is under 20,000 rupees in value. Now, why I've picked the amount, the value is 20,000, because it could be 15, but it is anything that you buy which is not going to be a very informed decision-making process, right? It's something you see, you like, you don't think too much before buying it. So that is the kind of product I'm looking at here. So here it is all about making your product known. People need to know that you exist. You need to show, you know, how are you unique? Why is your product different? Very often you need to teach your audience how to use it. You know, I've seen so many clothing sites where they use stylists and bloggers to show how it can be styled. You know, you see this Fresh Links. I think many of you may recognize it. It's a brand new service offering in Chennai, but see how they've tried to teach people how to use. They have salad recipes there. Now, kale is very new for a lot of us. They have kale recipes. So they teach you how to use their product and sort of buy you as a customer. They share customer testimonials. And then this other picture you have of Arabi V. Raghavan. That's an influencer collab. So she's got about 52,000 followers. So she regularly you know, uses the product, talks about it, tags them, and her community sees it. So you leverage the power of community in things like this. And these are not hard to sell items, or it's not a very informed purchase. You like it, you see it, you like it, and you buy it. So some categories for which this works is stationery, workout apparel, makeup, skincare, pantry, kitchen-related home care, home decor, small accessories, small electronics. So I think you understand the sort of range of products I'm talking about here. Then the third category I took up is, again, a B2C product, but this is more expensive. So when it's more expensive, let me first tell you, social media was only going to give you awareness. And it will give you leads, but it will not give you sales. There will be people who may reach out to you saying, I'm interested in knowing more about it, and you will have to work with them on nurturing and converting them, because that is the nature of the product, right? This could be selling art. It could be higher education courses which run into tens of thousands or even lakhs. So be for architects, interior decorators, furnishing, anything which people take time to decide. They research a lot. They look at other influencers, recommenders, all of this. You need to build your thought leadership here, and you need to going back to that user matrix I showed you. You need to reach out to influencers, recommenders, decision makers, and buyers, and that's really the only way you're going to make social media work for you, right? So again, You can see the couple of examples I've put here. SSN is a college we work with, and we generate leads for their data analytics course. But we can only generate leads, which is people who are interested in knowing more about the course. It will not be someone who's going to pay online and convert, right? And that is where the nurturing part comes in. And finally, B2B. In the research, in the survey form, there were a few people who had mentioned B2B. Right? They want to see how B2B can be marketed on social media. So one of the trends we've noticed in B2B is digital channels are increasingly being used for research and evaluation. People do a lot of research on the website, on LinkedIn, on Google, before they actually reach out to a B2B service provider or a product company. So digital can be used to build an online brand and product awareness. It's also for a very well-established B2B brand. It's a great way to humanize the brand. So if you see the example I have shared of Caterpillar, Caterpillar sells heavy engineering equipment. It can't get more boring than that. But you should take a look at their social media page. It is so interesting that you will want to know the company, right? And that is humanizing the brand. They do an awesome job of their social media. They showcase expertise, showcase product excellence, but they also touch you as a human. So there is a lot of opportunity for B2B on social media. You can use LinkedIn groups, emailers. LinkedIn offers something called account-based marketing, where let's suppose your target market is only, let's say, 300 companies and all my audiences. You can actually do a very focused account-based marketing where you reach only that group of customers rather than reach a lot of others who may not be relevant to you. B2B also uses social media for employer branding. So this is just some quick content marketing best practices on social media. Anything you think I've missed out on here? Any category I've missed out on that you'd like to hear about?
Ladies, please use the chat if you can.
I'm just going to see the chat.
Yeah, so much.
Okay,
I think you can move forward.
Sorry?
He's covered most of it. I think you can just go ahead.
Okay, I'll go on. I'm just going to share my screen again. So hang on. Okay, so that's B2B. So now we've done the major part of the work, which is you know your audience, you understand them really well, and you've got their attention with some very cool content. Now what do we have to do? We have to make it easy for them to take action. Now, do you recognize this kind of picture which I have? So often when you go to the cash counter in any retail store, you will have a lot of these socks and phone covers and scarves and these little things, gloves, and depending on the season, little things stacked up just as you queue up for the cash counter. And you will end up buying something from those racks there. And what is the retailer doing? Just making it very easy for you to quickly buy something, right? And that is a principle I like to apply on digital marketing also. Make it very easy for your customer or your prospect to take action, to reach you or to connect with you. Okay. So again, a quiz time. How many of you have been spooked out by Facebook showing you ads of the same website that you visited from Google? How many of you have been spooked out?
All of
Very
us, I
spooked
think.
out.
All of us.
Yeah, and do you know how that works?
Retargeting, I think.
No, there's a special setting in
It's
your...
they're retargeting.
Yeah, correct. So, so this
How
is
to do that?
yeah. So what happens is so this is like an exchange which happens between Google and Facebook. Okay, so there is some code which is put on your website, which is a code which is generated by Facebook. So when you visit the website passes the message back through the code to Facebook saying, so-and-so visited the website. So when you come onto Facebook, you saw, I talked about the different kinds of audiences you can create, right? So you can create an audience which is called the remarketing audience. Now the remarketing audience is, I can say, okay, anyone who's come to my website or anyone who's engaged with my page earlier, or anyone who looks like someone who's come to my website, or who looks like someone who's engaged with my page, or who looks like someone who's come to an event of mine. Like there are many options. So you can say that I want to remarket or retarget any of these kinds of people. And that's how, often you'll find yourself, you may have Googled for something and then you'll come to Facebook and you'll see the ad. Or you may have gone to a website, gone up to the cart and then come to Facebook, and then you'll see Facebook or Instagram and you'll keep seeing ads of that one product which you left behind on the cart. So all of these are remarketing strategies we follow. Again, and the purpose behind it is to make it easy to buy, right? Which is the topic here, which is the fourth step, which is so the first question you ask here is, what is the action you want your audience to take, right? Again, this depends on your marketing objective. Is it about awareness? Is it about awareness and interest? Or is it about conversion? So this, the screen I have here in front of me, in front of all of you, is again the ads manager from Facebook. You will have a similar screen that will come up in LinkedIn Campaign Manager also, where when you start an ad, the first screen that comes up is, what is your marketing objective? And these are the kind of objectives that you have. So in awareness, it is about getting more people to know about your brand, reaching more people about the brand. Consideration is about website traffic, getting people to share, comment, like, follow your brand. It could be app installs, it could be views of your video, it could be lead generation. This is not conversion, but this would be inquiries when someone submits an inquiry. It could be messages on your messenger. And then the conversion, which is actually website conversion, sales from your catalog, or store traffic. So these are the broad objectives which Facebook offers. LinkedIn offers you a very similar set of objectives. And so I have a few screenshots of ads here, right, where you can see some of these objectives being played out. So if you see Pumpkin Tail, they have some options there, which is to message and call, because they want people to, ask for reservations, ask for availability of a bakery product, and that order food links to Zomato and Swiggy. So you can order food from there. So that's the call to action that Pumpkin Tails has. If you look at Avantcard India, they have a follow. So clearly it's an awareness. They want more people to follow their page. If you look at Quad, they have WhatsApp and Messenger. So they want more people to engage with their page, because you click on it and you're going to engage with someone from the Quad. If you look at some conversion goals, if you look at, I think you would have all seen Shop Now buttons and Learn More buttons. All of these are conversion goals. You would have also seen this Prestige Group. If you click on Learn More, it will open up a form that you can fill and submit. So there are many ways in which you can connect with your audience and get them to take an action. So go back to your marketing objective. You know what your marketing objective is. Then you figure out what's the goal that you want to set. And the beauty of digital, you can measure success of this goal. So these are some typical metrics that we use to measure how successful the marketing activity has been. If it's brand awareness, you see the number of followers, fans, the number of people. If there was an increase in the number of people who came to your website, increase in the number of people who mentioned your brand, searched for your brand, who came first time to your website, the number of people you reached. All these are, there are a lot more metrics. So these are some common ones we use for awareness. For engagement, again, it's comment, shares, likes, the amount of time some people spend on your website, the number of pages they view, because you view more pages, there is more interest. The average duration of each session, the bounce rate, which is how, if someone leaves your website within 30 seconds of coming in, it's called a bounce rate. That means they're really not interested in what's there in your website. New versus returning visitors, open rates for emailers, how many people visited the landing page. I'll talk about the landing page next, but people visited the landing page. Again, the conversion leads, which are very straightforward. So there are many ways in which you can measure the success of your marketing campaign. So this is like a pro tip for conversion. What you see here is a landing page. It's actually one long page. I've just cut it into two. If you are keen on conversion, in the survey, I saw that a lot of people had said, I'm not really seeing ROI from my social media ads. Now, often you end up calling only a lead as an ROI, right? And not awareness. That's a very common psyche. So if you are very, very keen on only getting, or that you want leads from your digital campaign, I would highly recommend that you invest in what we call a landing page. Now, what is a landing page? Landing page is basically a one-page website. Like, apart from your website, this is one page that has all the information about that one product or service that you want your consumer to act on for that ad campaign. Okay. It is not your website. It's not a replacement for your website, but it is a magnifying lens put on that one service or product that you want to sell for that particular ad campaign that you're running. The most important parts of the landing page are the form that you see, because that is the form that your customers will submit. So think through the form and the information that you put in, make it complete, and don't give them any opportunity to click away and go away from it, because you've spent money and effort in getting them to this page. Now you have to make sure you convert them here, as in you allow them to, you inspire them sufficiently to fill the form and submit. Right? So this is called a landing page. It's very easy to create this, and I have some free resources for this also at the end. And there are lots of examples of this I can share with whoever is interested. Right? So this is something we had done for a company which wanted to sell masks during COVID. So it has all the information about masks, any kind of information they need. And we set up ads on Facebook and Instagram, where you click on the ad, which is going to be a learn more button. You come here and you can place the order. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I just see two questions which have been sent to me. One is from a member called Subhashini, and she says, could you tell us something about kids apparel? And the other one is from Preetika Munot, who says, would like to know a little more about tools on Instagram, which I think you're anyway.
About tools on Instagram?
Yeah. I'm guessing for business.
Yeah. So in terms of kids apparel, can you elaborate on the question? Because what would you like to know about it?
Subhashini, shall I?
You want to spotlight her?
Yeah, I think I will. Okay. Let me just go to her.
Yeah. Hi, Rinku.
Hi, you're here?
Hi, Aarti. Hi. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Your video.
Yeah, more so about whatever you said about women's apparel and stuff. How do you work on Instagram and Facebook about targeting kids apparel? Is there anything specific that one has to do in that sphere?
So
because
kids apparel falls nicely into that category of B2C under 20,000, and kids is the most shared set of consumer products, right? Because you see another child having it, another parent talking about it, invariably the parent in you will want to know more about it. So it's easiest to generate interest for kids apparel. So I would talk about both Instagram and Facebook, quality, what's unique about it, because it is a crowded market. What's special about it? Give samples to people, get people to post about it, make it easy for people to come in and buy on your site if that's what you if that's your ultimate objective. You should build a very nice brand story around kids apparel, because it's a crowded market. There are lots of kids apparel out there.
So I'm told that Insta is a better platform than Facebook, but what you have told me is that Facebook is definitely a better platform. So
they're both excellent platforms. So the thing is, when you look at Instagram, the audience is usually younger, upwardly mobile, and more literate, more comfortable with English. So it's a very urban audience on Instagram. So Instagram would be, if your age group is anything from 20 to 40, 45, definitely, and it's an urban segment that you're looking at, Instagram is definitely a very good platform. Facebook is a great platform when you're looking at people from not just urban, but also, the tier 2 cities, etc., because college students are super present on Facebook, and also the older age group. And when I say older, it could be 35, 37 plus, all the way to 60 plus, who are much more comfortable with Facebook, right? So it is, so Facebook and Instagram actually have the same ads manager, because Instagram is owned by Facebook. So you can
Okay.
set up an ad on Facebook and have an Instagram placement for it or an Insta story placement for it. So you don't really have to choose between the two. You can allocate
Okay.
the budget on Facebook, and Facebook will optimize between the two based on which is performing better.
Okay, so I want to know, this boost the post keeps on coming up. Is there any value to that?
It depends on your goal. If you want more people to know about you, yes. If
Okay.
you want more people to read your post, yes. It is the easiest ad to do. So Facebook is making it easy for you to do. You don't even have to go into the ads manager to advertise. Right?
Yeah.
It's making you spend
Yeah.
money with just that one button.
I
that's all
know.
it is.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you, Subhashini. I think
Thank you,
we'll
Aarti.
go on,
Thank
and
you.
we'll keep the rest of the questions till the end of the session because we're closing
Sure.
to 5. Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah.
I mean, I'm almost done.
Yeah.
So this is about the landing page. And then your final point is keep your customers happy. You've worked hard to understand them, get their attention, get them to take action. And now you just have to keep them very, very happy. So they become your advocates, your recommenders, and they bring in more customers for you. I'm not going to spend any time on this because I'm assuming that this is, whether it's digital or traditional, this is an important step to do, right? So this is my 5 steps to zero budget marketing. So the big question is zero budget marketing possible? Is it possible to grow your business spending zero? The answer is yes, right? But there is no free lunch. I've spoken to a lot of people who've grown their brands on their own without spending any money. But there is always a catch here. There is no free lunch. And what is the catch? It's really the ROI, which is your return on your investment dollars, versus the ROTI, which is the return on your time. To me, both are very valuable, because if you're going to take up a zero budget marketing approach, you have to spend the time every day thinking about your content. You have to be consistent, regular. You need to do more work than what a brand which is willing to spend has to do. Okay? This is the fundamentals of anything. There is no free lunch, so you need to put in the day. And in this survey, I had specifically asked this question: how much time do you have to spend on marketing? And quite a few of you had said whatever it takes, and quite a few had said 1 hour a day. So 1 hour a day. It depends on how mature your brand is and how you're able to get it, whether you're able to manage it or not. But if you take the zero budget marketing approach, you need to really be on the job all the time to make sure you're updated on the various opportunities which social media platforms give you. Because 3 years ago there was no Instagram stories, and today stories have taken over. Right? There is just so many things which are changing in the platform. There are so many types of content which is coming out, so many things which are trending. So you need to be abreast of what's happening. You need to constantly think about your audience, spend the time in creating the content and putting it up. So it's really up to you whether it's you're looking at a ROI or an ROTI, but it is possible. But the lever there is time, which you'll need to spend, right? So this is this sort of brings me to the end of this session, and I had some free resources which I wanted to share with all of you. These are things we've sort of accumulated over the years that we've worked with different clients, and it's all very easy and anyone can pick it up and do. So yeah, so this is like, how do you make, social media is so visual. Digital marketing is very visual. So how can you make awesome creatives and presentations, but without a designer? So there are a whole bunch of, I've listed a bunch of sites where you get great pictures free, great vectors also free, excellent slide templates, free stock photographs, and I don't know, I think a lot of you may be familiar with Canva already, but that has very cool templates for posts, emailers, infographics, presentations, videos, everything. So these are some cool resources to make creatives and presentations without a designer. Landing pages, right? That page may have freaked many of you out. Like, how do you create a page like that without spending money? Or how do you create cool emailers without spending money or without a developer? So these are again some sites for that. A Google site it's literally a drag drop, and you can create a basic landing page with that. Wix again gives you some very cool templates. All you need to do is edit it. And you have Sendinblue, MailChimp, all of them have emailer templates. And Sendinblue is good because often when you send an email out in bulk, it ends up in spam or promotions and nobody sees it. But we've tested with Sendinblue and it most of the time ends up in the inbox. So these are cool things for email. How do you snoop on competitions? If you remember in the audience section, I said you should look up your competitors' audience, right? So without a detective, how can you snoop on competition? The link which I have for the competitor ads, that takes you to a site where you can see all the ads that your competitors are running. That I'd say just click on it and try it. It's very interesting. You can also, using these Instagram photo downloaders, Story Saver, and as and when you see some ad from your competition that you like, first of all, I would say first you go back and follow all your competitors on Instagram and Facebook so you know what they're doing, right? And then every time you see something that you like or you think it's good, just use one of these tools and save the story, download the photo, and it's available for you to use. And here are some little hacks that you can do to get attention. You'll all have emails, so use your email signature as an advertising space. Host a free event or a masterclass. Everybody will want to attend. Collaborate with other businesses, local businesses who may also who may have a following, or together it may be a very interesting mix. Give out free samples to micro-influencers. I believe in the power of micro-influencers as far as Instagram goes. You don't have to invest in Shibani Dandekar, who the whole world knows, but instead you could invest in someone local who your audience knows, right? And it's much cheaper and it's often free. Join community forums and be heard, hear and be heard. Contribute guest blogs, develop a customer referral program. This is very powerful, but it's an offline thing. Follow others in your field, especially if you're in B2B. Follow others in your field, engage with them. On LinkedIn, when someone posts, LinkedIn is still a very uncrowded field. So when you post a comment, it gets noticed. People reply, and people love engaging on the professional forum. So start engaging. These are just some simple zero budget hacks to get attention. And then how can you run a marketing campaign without me? This I'm shooting myself in my leg. But there is this app called there's a company called HubSpot. We're actually partners with them. They give you a free CRM, emailer, ads management, and a contact management platform. It's free. Once you start using other services, you end up paying. But there is a basic package which is free and available. You should try it out. It's a pretty cool platform. The link is there, and very self-explanatory, and you can try it out. And that's it. I am done, and I'm happy to take any questions. I hope I didn't confuse you all. I hope you had some takeaways from it. And yes.
Hi, Aarti. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just trying to. Is my screen still shared? It's closed, right?
Yeah, it's closed. Okay. Yeah. Who is this? Please tell your name. Richa, hi. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Aarti, one quick question. A lot of people have always advised that there are particular days or time where you can post on Facebook and Instagram to get more followers. So yes. Can you give me insight on that?
Yeah. So in Facebook itself, if you go into Insights, you can also see the timing during which your audience is effective, is most active, right? That depends on the geography also. So the first thing is the moment you choose geography, Facebook will automatically optimize for views in that geography. Okay? The second thing is you can also say that if you're in India and you're targeting, let's say, people who are working, then we probably will choose the early morning, then the lunchtime, and then post 6 all the way to 11. So you can choose those times also once you go into the ads manager. So you can either say, Facebook, you optimize it for me, or you can. So normally what we do is we say Facebook optimize it, then we watch it over about, over a 3-4 day period, see at what time there is most action, and then you can post those timings.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. If you could just wait, there are a lot of questions here, Aarti. Yeah, lots. I'll just take them one by one.
Okay.
We will start. Let me just go to the first. Can you give me
Aarti Bhakti's, there's a question.
Wait, there are lots of them before that. Can we just quickly, I'm just trying to group them to see which one goes where. In the
how can you elaborate on planning?
Chitra says, in the analytics section, what about privacy in terms of data not being seen by competition?
And there's also another question on how can you stop Facebook and Insta from snooping on sites we visit. So you will have to do that cookie setting, right? Nowadays, this data privacy is quite pretty much there. So you can set up cookies where you can say, no, do not store information about my visit. So you can do that.
Okay. There's a question from Nikki Jatin. Can you give some specific hacks to increase social media engagement in a space where my competition is spending a huge amount of money in digital media to reiterate their branding? How do I compete with them?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. Is it here in the chat?
I'll put it on the chat. Wait.
Because I'm not able to understand it.
So she's saying if my competitors are spending a lot of money on social media, how do I use it, organically to compete with them and make my brand stand out?
So the thing is, there are some categories which are aggressively advertised. Okay, where you will find the impact of aggressive advertising is more on Google search rather than on social media. Okay, because in social media, how is your advertising is you say, okay, this is my audience. And then the moment you define your audience, Facebook will tell you this is how much it's going to cost you to reach your audience. So if I say, okay, I'm going to spend 500 rupees a day, it will tell you for 500 rupees a day, you will reach between, let's say, 100 to 150 people or 20 to 30 people. And that number depends on the size of your audience. So everything in Facebook is determined by your audience and not by your competition. Now, it is possible that if you are in a category which is very popular, let's say, for instance, women's clothes, right? Today, there is so much of slow fashion ads that we are all seeing, homeware and things you can kaftans and things you can wear at home and be comfortable. So many of those ads we are seeing. So the only thing that's going to happen over there is it's not going to impact how much you spend, but it may impact the action your audience takes because they're also seeing a lot of other ads. So it's more an ad fatigue for the audience rather than a direct impact. But however, if you put this on Google search, Google will say that for these keywords, this is my cost per click. This is how much I expect it to cost. And if there are more people bidding on those keywords, let's say if it is higher education course or GRE preparation, those are very highly bid keywords because people search on Google for these things. Now, if there's more competition bidding on it, you have to spend more amount of money to get it. So the competition plays a role in Facebook, in social media differently, and in Google differently. I hope I've answered.
So when you are, hi, this is Jatin here. So when you're dealing with serious products like education related products and things like that, do you think LinkedIn can help you much more than Facebook and Insta?
It depends on the nature of the product. If it is for let's say, education is a broad area, right? It could be for school students, it could be for college students, it could be for postgrad, it could be for working professionals. Even for working professionals, we have found that Facebook and Google search deliver a lot more than LinkedIn. LinkedIn is great for awareness because it is really only once a person is sort of well established in their careers that they seem to get the confidence to start engaging on LinkedIn. So I have not found LinkedIn. You can't ignore LinkedIn, but it's not going to deliver the kind of returns that a Facebook will deliver or even an Instagram. Again, it depends on your audience, where they are.
But most of the times I found the leads I have collected through Instagrams, they're like 90% of them are like, of no use. They have seen something and they just clicked it and given their details. And when you start communicating
targeting
with them,
and the messaging,
they say like, nahi, bas dekha to wahan pe add kar diya. So it's like...
So best practice to follow there is usually you don't collect a lead on LinkedIn. You get them to go to a landing page, and in the landing page, you clearly say, this is my criteria. And literally force them to fulfill the criteria before they're able to submit a lead. So that way you gauge you're controlling the quality.
Something like informed marketing or informed sales. not just like
No, it's
impulsive.
basically a qualifying them. You give them the information that helps them choose, and then you make sure they're the kind of audience you want.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have another question.
Yeah.
Any free keyword planning tools that you can suggest?
Yes, there is a Google keyword planner. There are also a few others. So I'll include those in the resources link. There's a very cool tool we use to get ideas for the kind of keywords you can do. Google itself in Google Ads, if you go in and you type in keywords, you can see the historic volume, which of the keywords has been doing well. You can also research competitor keywords. I will list these in the free resources. So there are a bunch of tools you can use. I'm just going to note that down.
Does the number of likes or followers for your brand helps in increasing brand awareness online?
Often this number of likes and followers is called a vanity metric. Okay, there was a point in time where brands were happy with just having, like n number of followers or n number of likes. But of late, we find that especially in Facebook, there's a lot of junk followers and junk likes that keep coming in, which are not relevant at all. So they are sort of losing their value. So today we see brands following, are going after a relevant audience. Is my audience relevant? So they want us to create specific audience personas. And even if it means my cost per like is not 1 rupee that it would be for a junk like, and if it's, we say 4 rupees, I'd rather have a good following than a junk following, which is just a number. So I don't think so. By itself, it doesn't mean anything. But I also think that when you put content up there, and if only 2 people have seen it, it's not worth the effort. You have to have people see your content, and they need not even follow your page. A trend I'm observing of late is I don't follow too many pages. But if some content comes which is advertised to my timeline, and I like it, I read it. And I sort of like the content, or, I act on the content which is there. People are following less and less because there's a lot of junk that's accumulated in our timelines over the years. So more than going after followers, go after a relevant follower, relevant audience, which is genuinely interested in your brand.
Hi, Aarti, I have a question.
Who is
Can
this?
you hear me? This is Jayashree here, Rinku.
Okay, sure, Jayashree. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Aarti, I run an online school for children where I cater to a lot of classes. We are online now because of the need, but I have a center in Poise Garden. Okay. These are 2-3 questions. One is a video format of posting any kind of a content more effective than just posters? Is video more effective? That's the question. First question. The second is, right now, because we don't have a team, in case I'm doing all the social media marketing, and we have to spread our time between Facebook, Insta, Google Business, email, mailers. What is the percentage that you would suggest would be most effective? Trying to optimize time. So
you offer classes for kids online, right?
Right.
Just do Facebook and Instagram.
Okay. So I'm not very strong on Insta. Facebook is something I'm comfortable with. So would you suggest that I learn Insta? Is it very relevant now?
You can, Instagram is very relevant. Again, it depends on the kind of courses you're offering, but almost
so all of them are kids for kids between 5 to 15 years.
Yeah. If it's an urban audience you're looking at, you should not ignore Instagram. It's very effective. So I will include some Instagram learning resources. It's not difficult. There's a lot of
it would be really helpful for me because I haven't got into it full-fledged. I think I was taking it for granted because we were getting kids to the center. Now with the online thing, it's more relevant to. It'll be appreciated.
So there's something called Facebook Blueprint, which gives you specifically on different topics. There's a lot of things you can learn. So I'll send you those links. But Facebook and Instagram is probably all you should spend your time on. Don't waste time doing videos unless it's really cool videos. It's hard to make really cool videos. They take time. So make really cool creatives instead. Use Canva, make creatives, get testimonials, get mothers to share, other mothers who know you, who've used your thing, get
testimonials of parents, are they effective?
Very.
Okay.
And tag them.
And tag the parent. Okay.
Of course, because that's when you reach their network.
Thank you, Jayashree.
Thanks. Thank you.
I see a hand raised.
There's a bunch
by
of questions
Vani.
in the chat.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, if we are not able to do all, we'll send them to you, Aarti, and we'll share them with the members also. Because
so, which module of digital marketing is good for generating sales? Vinita, I'm not sure I understand the question. Are you talking about a learning resource?
Can I speak? Hello.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. As you told, like the social media, Facebook and LinkedIn is for more branding, right? Generating leads, not generating sales for sure.
No. Facebook and Instagram will generate sales for you depending on your product. So many brands sell on Facebook and Instagram. And in fact, you can even have a shop on Facebook and Instagram. You don't even need to have a website. Facebook has something called Facebook Storefront where you can catalog, where you can have your catalog on Facebook and sell from there. All you have to do is link with a payment gateway.
Okay, so if you want, suppose I want to say I'm a social media marketer, so should I cover the all four Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Pinterest, or the two are
Forget Pinterest. Facebook and Instagram are your primary. Google Ads, of course, and LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, right? And what about SEO, Aarti? Like how
SEO is something which is
search engine optimization.
Yes. So search engine optimization is not something you can advertise. When you advertise on Google, it's called
ranking
search
on
engine
Google.
Marketing. Search engine optimization is what will make your website come up on the top as an organic result, right? And there are many parts to search engine optimization, some of which is technical, which your developer has to do, and on page. And then some of it is off page, which is called backlinking, that you need to do every month so that your rank remains up. So this is all about content generation, backlinking back to your website, having more references so that the search engine identifies your website on top. So that's an ongoing thing, which is usually a paid activity that you need to take up based on the number of keywords that you want to come up on top of.
Yes, you're right. So which one you would prefer, which model of digital marketing you prefer to generate good sales? I mean,
it all depends on your product. Okay? I don't know your product, so
I'm going to
I think one sec. I think we'll stick to one question because we're not able to answer everyone. Please, I would really appreciate if you could do that.
Thank you
so much.
Okay.
Thanks.
So, Aarti, I have a question. May I?
One sec. There are some on the chat. Do we want to go through them, Aarti?
Yeah, I'll just quickly
please
go
hold
through.
on
So
for a
Sukanya has
second.
asked, when it comes to posting on Insta for business, how do you decide on content versus grid beauty? Which is more important? No, so for me, it's very simple. Sabyasachi does beautiful grids because he has access to super cool photographs, great looking models, everything. So he can do a grid and he's got a huge brand following. So if you think you can create photographs which will look good on grids, definitely try it, but mix it up, because grid photos are very difficult because 9 photographs get replaced by one grid, right? And then when you see one separately, it doesn't look so nice. So just mix it up if you think you can. There is no question between one versus the other. Content always trumps. So grid photo is only a format. So it's like how you can have a carousel album, you can have a video, you can have a GIF, you can have a photo, you can have a grid photo. So just mix it up as a content. Next by Shuchi Agrawal. How can you stop Facebook and Insta from snooping? I think I've covered that. Deepika Vaishnavi, can you elaborate on planning of content calendar? So basically, I talked about the different types of content to educate, inspire, to convince, and to engage. So these are the 4 types of content. So keep your brand in mind, keep your audience in mind, keep your channel in mind. And we literally use an Excel sheet every month where the days of the week, month is put out. Then we first say, okay, are there any special days that are happening this month which is of relevance to my brand? You know, there could be a Father's Day, it could be a tourism day, it could be Environment Day, right? There are a lot of special days which are listed out there. So first look at that, see if it has a relevance, so put that in those respective parts. Then you think, okay, what are the campaigns or the products I want to push this month? So then you fill that out in a few boxes, and then say, okay, you know, you don't want to be all salesy. Do I have content that ticks all the 4, which is engage, educate, convince, and inspire, and fill the rest out. So normally I don't go for more than 3 posts a week. So around 12 posts a month is ample. But plan it differently, like plan to have content in your timeline, and Instagram stories have a regular frequency of stories. If your brand is something that can have user generated content, plan for that because user-generated content has a lot of value. Okay, so be very interesting in the content. Then how can I check competitor ads? There is a link I've included in the free resources. So, once Rinku's office shares it with all of you, you can take a look at that link. There is a link where you can input the competitor's name. Do the same tools of defining audience apply on Insta as well, or is it a different algorithm? So Facebook Ads Manager does give you an option. So the audience that you create on Facebook, you can also do an Instagram placement. So it will be shown to a relevant audience on Instagram. But outside this, Instagram also has a very simple ad manager that you can access on your mobile phone itself and choose, create an audience. But it does not have as many options as Facebook Ads Manager. It's a much simplified, smaller version. It's also a lot less intimidating. So you can try both. Often, in some cases, we have found that the Instagram targeting works better. In some cases, we have found that creating an audience on Facebook is working better. You will have to just try and see because it all depends on the brand, the product, and what the objective is. Rinku, what is the question? In my industry, competitors are not present. They thrive on traditional marketing. How do I move forward with a marketing plan? So this is actually a very large question because I don't know what your industry is. I think I've covered the point on followers. A question from Mona. Try to create a business page on Facebook. Says it is not free. I need to pay for help. No, the business page is free. It will take your credit card details probably in case, because the assumption is if you create a business page, you're going to do some advertising. So they always take the credit card details, but you get charged only as and when you set up an ad. So there is no charge to set up a business page. In case specifically there's a problem, we can connect offline and I can help you with that, Mona. Okay.
The question that I posted was from someone else.
No, it's a question from Mona, this one.
No, that was Mona. The earlier ones, I just cut and pasted. They sent it to me.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Free keyword planning we've covered. Which module of digital marketing we've covered that. What budget can we work with tied together? Why can't we have website as a landing page? Nice question. Of course, you can have website as a landing page. Supposing you feel that the landing page does justice for you and you don't need more content to convince your customer, absolutely fine. You can just have a landing page. No issues in that also. In fact, a lot of these little online grocers, many homepreneurs have only a landing page. It's perfectly fine. So you don't need to have a website. Because a website is just a landing page is a single page website, and there are many websites which are also single page. What budget can we work with? It depends on the cost of your product. Okay. If your product
is a service.
If your product is a yeah. So you have to keep in mind the cost of the service, the conditions under which someone will buy your service. Is it something that is it like a delivery service that I would need very often? Or is it something that I really have to think and that I'll buy? So it really depends on the nature of the market. But the easiest way to find is to create your audience on Facebook. And as I said, Facebook will throw out some numbers for you as to how much you need to spend to reach this audience.
Okay, they will guide us through the ad budgets?
It will give you a range. It will be a very wide range, but it will give you a range. And yeah.
Sorry, because I've not yet done any paid ad and stuff. So I was just asking, what is the budget we need to look at for further on, because I'm blank. That's why.
What is the product?
It's a service. It's a wedding planning service. Events, wedding.
Yeah, so it's going to be a little, so wedding planning is one of those very personal brand kind of things. You have to work a lot in building your name before you start getting inquiries. So, so put a lot of pictures out there, work you've done. Your work should speak for it and people will then come to you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Until you do that, don't get on to ads.
Oh, that's what I'm doing. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. How do we stop people from plagiarizing? I don't know. So whenever we have a interview process where people have to write in quite a bit, and whenever we get something, we use one of those. Grammarly has a tool to check plagiarization. I'll check that before we even rate it, but I've not had to. I don't know too much about this. How how genuine are influencers who constantly mail you and message you to employ them? You can check. Again, all you have to do is go to their Facebook profile or the Instagram profile, see the number of followers they have, see the kind of engagement their posts generate. Are people liking their posts? Do you find the content relevant to you? And then you can take a call. So it's fairly simple because it's all transparent. Relevant content calendar, I think we covered. Is a YouTube channel necessary? I think that is the point we've already covered, right? Yeah, I think we've covered most
questions. What we will do is we'll mail this to you.
Yeah.
Because we are really overshot our time. And
but Aarti, I must tell you that right now it shows 65, but 65. But when your session was on, we had 90 members who were on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we did. I think family duties call and everybody's had to run away slowly. But thank you so much. Thank you for your time, for sharing so much of your knowledge. And I think your passion just comes through more than anything else. I think you can go on if you did it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love being a part of this group. I look forward to meeting you all in person as things open up.
Yeah.
I hope you've had some takeaways. I hope I've converted some of you into liking Facebook. Because a lot of us hate Facebook right now. There's a lot out there. There's a lot to learn. I'll share these resources, and I'm always, Rinku has my details. It's simple, aarti@inception.net.in. You can reach out to me if you need anything. Thank you for asking all these questions and giving me
Thank you
a chance
so
to
much.
speak.
And we'll be in touch. You can be sure I'll be sending you some questions. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for giving your valuable time. As always, we are able to do so many webinars and events only because of your support. And I really look forward to the same. Thank you so much, and bye-bye, everyone. See you tomorrow at the Incubation Cell Startup event. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. See you.